We made the decision to come here to Farmville, Prince Edward County, to create this video, this documentary, simply because of the history that has been made here that a lot of people do not know about. And we want to get the message out there of where we have come to where we are now, the work that my parents have done. And it has been quite an emotional time that we've had here interviewing the people, simply because of the impact that has been made by my parents. And as I sit here in the school where I went to middle school, where my parents have also attended school, and viewing the high school or going by the high school where I attended, my parents attended, and it's been really, really emotional. But I'm just so honored to be able to create a video that's gonna talk about them, that's gonna support their legacy, and to see the impact that they have made and that they're still making with many people, not just here on a local level, but throughout the world.
My name is Samuel Williams. I was graduated from this high school in 1952. Before that time, I was, right after that, right before that, in September, I was elected president of the senior class. And I demonstrated in the movement that we had in 1951 to strike for a new school. Since that time, well, so much have unfolded, going away from Farmville to school, to work, to the military, that type of thing. So that's what I've been actively engaged. I'm a minister now and a pastor of 5 churches, and I've had some social work ministers, specialized ministers in Buffalo, New York, as well as here in County Prince Edward. I work with part of the program, Head Start, Community Action Agencies, and the like.
All white faces behind a cash register, giving you money. Every time you're giving your money, you're giving to a white person. You know, these are the kinds of things that touch the psychic.
Yeah, it didn't have to be sad because you could always see the line. We went to black schools, white people went to white schools. We went to black church, white people went to white church. You know, if you had to go, we had small black stores in the black community, but to do your major shopping, you had to go to a white store. You know, your parents worked for white people. You know, so, you know, you didn't have to say it. We grew up knowing that we belong over here and they belong over there.
You got to realize that I was 8 years old when schools closed. So we had a little celebration, said no school. Not thinking that the days were going to turn into weeks, the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into 5 years.
In 1954, the Supreme Court's Brown versus Board of Education decision declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. Yet from 1959 to 1964, Prince Edward County officials chose to close their schools rather than integrate, denying an entire generation of children access to public education.
Because the Brown story is more than just Topeka, Kansas, and you can't learn the whole Brown story unless you come and visit Farmville, Virginia, because civic engagement failed this community, and so they had to resort to civil disobedience. And the power that comes in that is a case that provides 75% of all the plaintiffs in Brown versus Board of Education.
It bothered me, and I think it bothered your dad. And what we did, really, when they said they're going to close the schools, I think we halfway decided to leave Prince Edward. But since the white people didn't lock the doors, we kept going where we were going. They had us at the middle school or either at the high school. We kept going. You know, but sometimes now I still think about it, and I'm glad that we continued to go to school. But, you know, we had to do what we had to do.
the schools were closed, we didn't have where to go, so the white community got together and built that school over there for their kids to go to school.
Good Lord.
So we still was out of education. So when that was going on, we still didn't have no school. So as the years went on, we still ain't had no school, but they did. They had buses going, you know, and it was something that you really couldn't understand, you know, because we were young. You know, so we got to school. Why can't we go to school? Why can't we go, you know, go somewhere? But we never did. He was always telling you, you can do this, you can do that, you know. You can be somebody. Always remember that. Because, you know, sometimes you was down, so, you know, I ain't gonna never be able to do nothing because of that years you missed in school. But they will always tell you, you can be somebody.
At the heart of the fight stood Reverend James S. Williams, Jr., who saw his pulpit as more than a church.
Traditional pastors at the time bury the dead, marry people who need to be married, and you preach on Sundays, right? But him and Griffin, I mean, they view the world as a pulpit and not just their church. And so they believed in being a social pastor, not necessarily just a pastor in a traditional 9-to-5 Sundays, Sunday school kind of sense.
We had people, you know, pushing us. And then by being in the basement of the church, where the demonstration came out of, I would be down there with Reverend Griffin. He gave me a job cleaning up his office or just being around me.
He and some other ministers went down there one Sunday. I think our service was over. They just went down there to listen, go inside and listen, you know, like white folk do when they want to. But somebody called the police from that church, I think. They didn't want them there. They called the police. And the police station is not that far from First Baptist Church. And some of us were across the street from the Methodist Church, talking to Reverend Griffin, just talking ordinarily to Reverend Griffin. And I saw the police car go behind the jail and go up Main Street. And I recognized Sammy and some others in the police cars. It was more than 2 of them. So I told Reverend Griffin, and they took it from there. They went down to the church to see what was going on, and then after they told them what was going on, they followed them too. So it took a while, but they straightened it out. What really got to me, and I really appreciate it to this day, and sometimes I talk about it, especially to people here in Richmond, about the ministers who were here in Richmond at that time. They would come to Farmville, doing all of this, I think it's right now. They would come to Farmville and encourage ministers like your daddy. You know, wherever there was a revival, they would go with them. So really, it was a big fight. It was fighting. I'm gonna just say it was a fight going to hell. It was a fight, and I'm getting choked now. But to just think about what you had to endure, and your parents had to be a part of it. It just, well, in so many ways, it made us stronger because we weren't afraid to fight.
Denied a public education. Then, in 1964, the courts forced the reopening.
Yeah, the president, Reevely, decided that the Board of Visitors, they wanted to give each person that was out of school a doctorate. It was well attended. I think it was like maybe 400 or more. But it was people that actually came up to me crying. So, you know, what they crying about? They said, we didn't know what you've been through. I said, been through what? You know, they said, you missed 5 years at the age of 8? Yeah, you know. So, but I survived.
Today, that legacy lives on.
here at the museum, carrying the torch of his legacy and his classmates' legacy in the space that they never probably imagined being what it is today. I know where this place should be. I know where, the legacy of your father, many others should be. It should be set in the same vein as a Montgomery or a Selma or Birmingham. I mean, Farmville, right? Without Virginia, without the story, the civil rights movement doesn't look the same way that it did. Our story is different, but I think that's part of what makes it so unique as well.
Every Wednesday night?
Friday.
Every Friday, my husband gave our children an assignment. They had to learn something about Africa and report on it. And it paid off. It really did. It paid off, And today they really appreciate it. You don't have to go around wearing it on your collar, but it comes out, and you know who you are. You're not ashamed of your identity, and you know who you are. So it really pays off to know who you are and express it whenever it's necessary. Or just wear it proudly. Whatever race you are. That's what happened.
Reverend Williams taught us that faith without action is empty. His fight for justice opened doors. Now it's our turn to walk through them.
Stay in prime, stay strong, and fight on.